Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
And to begin our conversation on Nigeria-China relationship 51 years on, let's check this background report by Kunle Adeyeye.
It took Nigeria 11 years after independence before it could establish relations with the People's Republic of China. With the relations spanning about 5 decades, trade and diplomatic relations between the two countries have remained cordial. Nigeria remains one of China's trading partners, as it provides huge market for various Chinese products such as electrical machinery and equipment, vehicles, railway tram and rail stock, reactors and boilers, to mention just a few. Despite the outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020, the trade volume between Nigeria and China was to the tune of $20 billion, which has been on the upward trend since. Consequently, the Chinese embassy in Nigeria has been engaging the Nigerian authorities on how to take the bilateral cooperation of the two countries to higher levels through the 5G strategy initiative, with a prediction that the year 2022 and beyond could bring Nigeria a monumental turnaround in its economic, security, and social fortunes. China has further provided financing for various infrastructural projects in Nigeria, such as railways, Lekki Free Trade Zone, hydropower plants, among others. Besides the fraternal amity that exists between the two countries, Nigeria and China have diverse ethnic groups and have the largest populations in their respective continents. How has the volume of Nigeria-China trade enhanced economic development in Nigeria? What more can be done to strengthen ties between the two nations? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be speaking to issues around Nigeria-China relations in a moment.
Thank you, Kunle Adeyeye, for the background report. Now we have the pleasure of again welcoming back to our studio for the second time the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria and His Excellency Mr. Cui Jianqing. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We also have here with us again, we also need to welcome him back, Associate Professor Sharif Gali Ibrahim, and he's of the Department of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja here in the FCT. Thank you very much for
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you very much. And then we are expecting really a guest from Jos talking about Professor Nora Dadut. Whenever we're ready, we get that, we'll be able to really connect to her, and then we move on the discussion. But in the meantime, let's get started and then see how far we can go. Let's start with you, Ambassador Cui Jianqing. We were here last year. We are here again.
Yeah.
It was 50 years last year. It's now 51 years. Nigeria-China relationship. What's the driving force between this relationship? Let's start from, the other ones to go into history now and start talking about how it all started. Let's see what really makes this relationship friendly, cordial, and of course moving smoothly, I must add.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigerian. I'm very happy today to have this opportunity to do the second time about the relation between Nigeria and China, China and Nigeria. And I want to characterize the relation between the two great countries. In the first, I would like to share the facts. Nigeria, you have the biggest party in Africa. I noticed that APC has more than 14 million members of the party. CPC also is the biggest party in Asia. We have 96 million members of the party. Second fact is about Nigeria is the biggest nation in terms of population, to more than 200 million people here in Nigeria. China, we have 1.4 billion. The third fact is Nigeria is the biggest economy in the whole Africa continent. China is the biggest one in the whole Asia. Why I mention this? That we could find our position, find our similarities. So this is the background for the two nations to develop economy, political things, and also international cooperation. I want to emphasize the two nations, we celebrated the 50 years anniversary last year. Now we are doing the 51 years the relationships. I want to say that we really have a sound and very healthy, and I think that's a very, very constructive relationship between the two countries. This could benefit the two peoples of two countries. I think that during the past 50 years, we have done a lot, but we still have a lot of things needs to be done. So this is my duty, my mission. How can I do things for the two countries and for the two people?
Okay, before we get to the aspect of what you can do and what your visions are, I also like to ask, we've had so much, robust relationships, so much going. The data we have, we read out earlier on, talks about trade, value amounting, or trade relations getting to double digits, 19 points as at, this year and all that. What would you think have been the magic, the real game changers for this relationship in the past 2 decades? Yes.
The economy sectors, I'm the 14th Chinese ambassador in Nigeria. My feeling and observation, the very, very important that trade economic sectors. Last year, we achieved $25.6 billion US dollars. That's the trade volume. This year, Nigeria is the first one to import from China, number one in the whole African continent. So now we have an imbalance between trade with China. We Chinese export more to Nigeria. We import more, less than export. So my mission is how can we find a way, find the avenue to try to produce more commodities and to China. China is the number one consumption market. So I do believe that we have a great potential. We can use the words a gap between the performance and the potential. So I'm thinking within the next 3 years or 5 years, my goal and my mission is try to double the trade volume that we can achieve 50 billion US dollars. At that time, we will be the number one in the whole Africa. I think that we just mentioned number one, trade economic sector should be the number one between Nigeria and China.
So that's the changer. That's the game changer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a pause there and then come back to you later on in the course of the conversation. Let's hear from, Gali, and then maybe get his perspective on this relationship. This relationship has been on for the past 51 years, as we said. And I also can vividly remember that you were part of the discussion last year in which you brought out some issues, which especially His Excellency came up with some initiatives and things like that. And then 12 months after now, and here we are talking about this relationship as it waxes stronger. What's your perspective?
Well, you see, the twilight of the Second World War had actually paved a way for the emergence of the Cold War. And the Cold War bipolarized the global system, where we got the Soviet as well as the Western. With this trend and development, there emerged a process called the non-alignment. And the non-aligned movement brought about developing nations that actually stood aloof not actually getting involved either to the Eastern or Western blocs. So this brought about the South-South cooperation with China, Nigeria, other Asian, African, and Caribbean countries belong. So this solidarity continued to manifest. And by 1971, officially 71-72, the coupling between China and Africa, China and Nigeria, actually come to be at its heightened level. So this solidarity of South-South cooperation belonging to developing nations, within the global system, and by extension, China began to actually move faster. Having observed all the difficulties that China had actually passed through, the Sino-Japanese war, the poverty level, then China discovered it actually self and talent. So it began to industrialize, it began to produce, to manufacture. So, but in Africa here, we are still battling because some of the states or nations of Africa were still colonies, to this particular Western world and Western powers. Look at South Africa, for example, Namibia, which emerged, in the 90s. So the relationship between Nigeria and China continued to grow in solidarity, looking at each other from the original or veritable principle which was upheld at the Bandung Conference. A meeting that was held between China, Asians, as well as Africa. So Chairman Mao, the legendary Chairman Mao, in this particular meeting, he itemized a significant aspect of the relationship, that both of Africa, as well as Asia and China, to be specific, we've been dominated, under imperialist subjugation. So therefore, there was the need for these particular forces to come together to fight any form of domination, be it political, economic, social, cultural. So this continued to bind these two forces together. And that is why I could remember that President Xi Jinping, the current president of the People's Republic of China, once observed that the relationship between China and Nigeria or China and Africa is not separable. You understand? That is something that cannot be separated. It's something that nobody can actually interfere in this particular relationship. Why? Because these are two great sisters. And therefore, that solidarity continues to be. And that is why China had consolidated all effort in making sure that it carries out mutual trust between China, Nigeria, China, Africa. Mutual trust, mutual benefit in our relationship. Not being selfish that, no, China, we want China to drive all the benefits. No, China continue. Why is China successful? Is because it has actually pursued this mutual benefit philosophy. Why, if China had been selfish, Africa will have withdrawn and identified the motive of China by now. But we discovered that China is a sister. China is pursuing this particular policy of what? Mutual benefit and shared future for humanity. And that is why we continue to couple with China, and the relationship today is also growing, and the two parties are driving the benefits.
Prof, you paint a picture of symbiotic twins between China and Nigeria. You talked about mutual benefit, and that's quite significant. I know that China and Nigeria have a lot in common. If you look at the UN projection of our population by 2050, it says that Nigeria may become one of the largest, nations of the world, with about 400 million people, and also China, has a very large population, and both countries are also consuming, nations. But I like you as a Nigerian who is friendly to the China. Can you bullet point if the relationship so far? I don't want to look back at 50 years back. I want us to look at 20 years back. The benefit, has it been mutually beneficial? If you look at the volume of activities, Chinese activities going on in Nigeria, and Nigerian activities going on in China?
Yes, of course. You see, when we started economically romancing with China, we came to discover that there is fruitful evidence that Africans as well as the Chinese can actually reckon with. Why is it so? In our more than 100 years of relationship with the West, we come to discover that the benefit we are deriving with the shortest period of relationship with China is actually more noticeable. So that is why with the relationship starting in the 70s, now you come to discover that we have schools in Africa and in Nigeria that our children are easily learning. If you come to the FCT, for example, there are institutions of learning that have been supported by the Chinese. There are hospitals, okay? In fact, the ultimate goal is to achieve higher education, which paves ways for our teeming youth to achieve greatness, to be self-reliant and independent. The Chinese government has continued to provide scholarship support, not even only for Nigerians, not only for Africans, even for Americans, for Australians, for Canadians, for Arabians, and many more other places around the world, in order to show that particular humanitarian gesture. So our people go to China, these people study medicine, these people study engineering, architecture, and other relevant or related courses. Then apart from this, the Chinese companies investing in our own entity, in Nigeria and the entire continent of Africa, for example, imagine the quantum of job opportunities that we're having, the construction of railways, the construction of roads, the construction of bridges, the airport. Our people also get engaged because the foundation is job opportunity. You cannot fight poverty with unemployment. But when you get people engaged, you give them job, they can actually put food on their table. They can send their children to school. They can actually live a good life. So that is the foundation. This investment provides opportunities for what? For jobs and in fighting poverty. Then apart from this, imagine the Abuja Kaduna. I made mention of this, last year. It eases transportation. There is no nation that can actually develop without, a modern transportation system. Why? Because you convey people, you convey goods, and a whole lot of things. And that has assuaged transportation difficulty. Look at the Lagos-Ibadan rail, Abuja Kaduna. But there is something that we must actually do, which is obvious. Everybody knows, not only in Africa, everywhere around the world. The benefit of this particular relationship that we are deriving, there is a homework because due to internal contradictions, we are failing in actually fully, benefiting from this particular, engagement. Why? Because for how long the Abuja Kaduna road has been put to,
operational.
to operation. Why? As a result of terrorist activities and insecurity. This is a great area that we must actually venture. And that is why the issue of wisdom is salient in everything and in whatever we do. And if you look at the leadership of China, for example, from the beginning, there is the application of wisdom. If you come down from the legendary Chairman Mao to Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, to current president who is Xi Jinping, you discover that the reform and opening up, the three represent, the scientific outlook, the four comprehensives, all these constitute philosophical development that actually build a foundation of a society. So the wisdom here is that in the last year's Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, which was held in Dakar, Senegal, President Xi Jinping, it wasn't the African president, one man, who came to Africa, and proposing this 9 areas of cooperation between China and Africa, which by and large will benefit Africans themselves. He itemized the area of medicine and health, the medical area that we should actually boost, because A population that is not healthy cannot actually embark on a journey to development. So medical and healthcare services are very crucial for the survival of our own relationship. Then he thought of fighting poverty and agriculture.
Yes, I know.
So many areas.
I know you're a professor in political science, but are you also a communist?
What kind of-
I'm sure you have a CPC card carried member.
Qualified professor.
He sounds sympathetic to that anyway. But nonetheless, we'll come back to these issues, talking about what needs to be done, in order to gain much more from China. Your Excellency, you agree to the fact that there's trade imbalance, and given the benefits China make out of Nigeria and Africa generally, we can see how open Nigeria has been and how warm welcome it has been to China and some other countries that really want to invest in Nigeria because it really wants to open up to and then take off or rather take after your footstep and then move on as fast as you want. Chinese companies, operate in Nigeria, about 218 of them at the moment. And of course, China also acquired some licenses in order to drill oil in this country. And this really comes out to show how strong, we take China. But this doesn't seem to be the case in China as far as Nigerians are concerned. That's an explicit, trade imbalance. As somebody who represents Chinese interests in Nigeria, and of course, the ambassador, and being in Nigeria now, that doesn't really, it may sound good from the nationalistic point of view, but from the mutual point of view, it sounds as if something is amiss.
First, I want to add one point about the Chinese people, Chinese business, Chinese government has done for the whole Africa. The big picture. The most important aspect is about infrastructure for the whole African continent. We can share you the figures. We have built 100,000 highways, 10,000 railways, 100 seaports. We have more than 700 million people in the whole African continent benefit from Chinese internet 5G technology. That's really, this is a fact. You can check out in media, check the internet. This is really demonstrate China, Africa. I visited some states in Nigeria. Some governors told me, Ambassador, Africa is the future of the human beings. And they said China is hope of the future. I fully agree this point. Really, Africa should be the future of humankind because we have great potential. Now back to the productivity issues here, that we need more products, need more productivity. So Nigeria, we have not only natural resources, we have abundant human resources. The issue here, I think not a problem, the challenge, how can we have our agro-industry and also the industry in the factory areas. So to my acknowledgement, to my assessment observation, I laid out in my strategy about the 5I. The 5I, the third I is about industry. Fourth is about investment. The last one is about import-export. I do believe that Nigeria is an agriculture state. So we, like China, agriculture, rural areas, the farmers should be the priority for the government. Nigeria also, you have the same policy. So that means I encourage the Chinese business to invest here. We are lacking of investment for irrigation, drainage, and also road and highways. So I believe that in the coming years, if we have good infrastructure, so I'm very proud to share with you, I'm very proud for being the Chinese ambassador in Nigeria. The week before last, I was in Lagos to see the deep sea port. I just mentioned we have built 100 ports for the Africa. Nigeria Lagos deep sea port is the number one in the whole West Africa, 15 members country. And also I would like to share with the railway. And this year I'm working very hard to get finance from Chinese banks to finance Kaduna-Kano Railway.
I was going to ask you if you have taken a ride, on the train either from Abuja, Kaduna, or Lagos
To Ibadan.
Ibadan. And I wanted to have a feel of what you feel, and then to ask you if to probably evaluate, because I know that your support for us in terms of loans are tied to infrastructure. What are your feelings about the way we have utilized the financial support coming from you? But you will answer in just a moment. We've gotten another one of our guests who's just joined us via Zoom, Professor. Okay, I'm told we'll introduce her as soon as we are connected with her. But please take your questions.
Okay, so that means how can we improve our productivity for the Nigeria business? We know the most important here, the material condition. The every nation I just mentioned, we have strengths and weakness. In China also we have a big challenge. Every year we have to generate or produce at least 11 million jobs for the young people.
Okay.
So Nigeria also, how can we lift people below the poverty line? China, we have achieved this great mission. We are accomplished this mission ahead of 10 years in terms of SDG of UN. So I'm thinking that there is a possibility, there is a chance how China, Nigeria. I'm strongly try to build a relationship between China, we call this province, Nigeria, we call it state. So not only from the federal level, and also from state level. And the last 2 weeks, I visited some provinces, and also I'm thinking that we will let Chinese provinces or state to work with Nigeria side, to build our capacity, to have increase our productivity.
I asked the question before. I think you were concluding your response to Nadabu's question on. I asked the question on how you felt taking a ride, on the train from Abuja to Kaduna, if you have, and then
I will do it.
yes, and then for you to also evaluate the policy where your financial support also is tied to infrastructure. How do you think we have utilized it? Are you pleasantly surprised?
The infrastructure, I think, is a bottleneck for the economy. This is the reason Chinese president has a Belt Road Initiative. She proposed in the year 2013. So Nigeria, we signed this agreement in the year 2018. So you just mentioned infrastructure really is a big focus for Chinese business. But I want to share with you that we also have to do the other aspects. For example, salt exchange, talent cultivation, and also treasure capitalization in the 5G strategy and technology application and traditional transcendence. So I believe that really for Nigeria side, we are struggling, we are fighting for the changing the living conditions, living standards, especially since the professor said opening up and reform policy since 1978. So I think that really is high time for Nigeria, China. If we back to 100 years ago, China has no capability to work with Nigeria because at that time you are fully colonized. We Chinese are semi-colonized. Back 6 years ago, we are struggling to find our way, how can develop our political system, economic system, national defense system. We cannot do more for Africa to Nigeria. Even at that time, we are building the railway. We call Tanzan Tielu. But now we are doing effort in Nigeria. So I think that now China, at this time in the 21st century, we have our experience, lessons, capability, technology. That is time for China to make our contribution to the whole Africa continent.
Yes, we can see that the contribution is coming and the impact is really being felt all over. Before we come back to you, permit me to please acknowledge and then, welcome, to this discussion, Professor Nora Dadut. She's joining us from Jos via Zoom. She's a distinguished senator, and she's going to be with us at least for the remaining part of the discussion. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Can we please have her if she's ready? Okay, you're welcome. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Professor Nora Dadut. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Nora Dadut is a distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We thank you so much for being here. Let's just move on. Gali, please permit me to just take her up immediately. Let's just, take you up and then hear your views about this. I don't know whether you've been part of the discussion from the beginning, but all the same, it's about China-Nigeria relations in the past 51 years and how it has fared. We've talked about so much, talked so much about, how this relation has been and what the benefits have been and what the constraints were as being put forward by His Excellency, the Ambassador to Nigeria from China, Chui Jinchun. Now, give us a perspective. We were on the issue of imbalance in, trade, talking about how much China, exports to Nigeria and then how much Nigeria imports from China. That's where the imbalance is. That's a great concern to even the Chinese because the ambassador really accepted that, and Nigerians too are concerned about that. What's your perspective about this, and what do you think should be done in order to correct this imbalance? Let's start from there.
Well, I think we need to close the ranks in terms of expectations from both countries. First, Nigeria, having signed this bilateral relationship on trade and investment about 51 years ago, has a lot to share with China. And by and large, the Chinese have been trying to invest. In fact, they have been investing in our country, in Nigeria. And on the other side, I think Nigeria is just coming along to invest in terms of education, economy, and even cultural investments. And so I think the imbalance is such that China has to bring in more from Nigeria into its own country because it is give and take. It's a sort of exchange business. It's an exchange deal. So much so that being a developing country, I think we will be able to also develop to a stage where we need to close ranks.
All right. Thank you, Professor Dadut, for your opening comment. I'll just come back here and then return to you in a moment. And I'll go back to Ambassador Chui Jinchun. You talked about being a new phase in Nigeria-China relations. And you've also talked about 5 Gs, which there are 5 goals.
GDP strategy.
Yes. Can you talk to us about each of these goals and how you hope to mainstream it in our relationship?
I'm the 14th Chinese ambassador, so I thank to my predecessor. They have built a very bedrock relation between China and Nigeria, Nigeria-China. So I'm thinking the first 50 years, we really have achieved a lot. But for the next 50 years, China always have a long vision. So that long-term vision, how can we do things for the next 50 years? And next 50 years really is very critical to Nigeria and China. We will achieve the second centenary goal by the year 2050. That means the founding of New China. At that time, we are 100 years for New China. So this is we will build a socialist country, strong, prosperous, democratic, and also cultural advanced and beautiful China. So Nigeria, I think that how can we, I just mentioned we have a lot number one in Asia, in Africa. You just mentioned Nigeria will be number 3 in terms of population by the year 2050. China will be second. India will be number 1. So I'm thinking, how can we need strategy. We need new strategy. We cannot live in the past. Like some politicians, they are living in the 1950s or living in the First World War, Second War. They still have mentality. So we have to change this mentality. How can we face the challenge, change, especially the big change, unseen in the century? So I think about how can we map out, formulate a new strategy. Just you mentioned, I'm very proud this is approved and supported by the 2 governments. The 5G Nigeria GDP strategy. I want to emphasize here, GDP is not about gross domestic product. GDP really is important. China is number 1. Number 2 now, we have 17 trillion US dollars GDP. So Nigeria, you have less 5,000, I think, 500,000 billion US dollars. So that means this is very, very important indicator for the economy. But I try to let people know, to the 2 countries know that we need to grow. We need development. We need progress. Growth, development, progress. Because it's not only about GDP. It's not only about the economy. It covers political affairs, social affairs, culturally, things, and also the environmental protection. So I just back to 5G, it's very quickly. 5 goals, I want to set specific goals. Political consonance. Without this consonance, without this trust, without this support, we cannot achieve the other aspects. So this is the banner to lead the 2 nations, to direct, guide, not only for direction, not only for the content of cooperation. So I use the words political consonance. But the main thing is about the core interest. What's the main core interest? Everybody know that sovereignty, territorial integrity, and major concerns. I think that Nigeria, China, you have your challenge setbacks. China also is facing our challenge setbacks about core interest. Maybe if we have time, we can discuss later. The second is about economic cooperation. I use the words cooperation, first the consonants. The third is about military and security collaboration. The fourth is about international affairs coordination. The last one is about people's communication. So I use the 5G here. We use a 5C, consonants, cooperation, collaboration, coordination, and communication. We have put specific goals in these areas. So this is a 5G and 5I. I quickly let you know: infrastructure, ICT, industry, investment, and import-export. S, security, structure, speed, synergy, supervision. 5T, talent, thought exchange. I want to emphasize, if you look at history, we are always talking about liberty, democracy, freedom. We need also try to update. This is bedrock for the society, for the country. Look at the thought. Now, Professor, the Xi Jinping thought for the new era about Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics. So I really want to share with you the Xi Jinping thought is not matters a lot for Chinese people, Chinese government, matters a lot to Africa.
So it's not country specific.
We have specific thought. I can share with you. I can give you the books to share the thought. We really have a clear definition what's the content of Xi Jinping's thought about state governance, about the party, about military, about economy. So this is a very powerful thought. Look at the big picture, global picture. You cannot find the head of state, premier, or president to have such kind of thought, not only about China, it's about human being, about the global picture. This is thought exchange. The second thought is talent cultivation. The third is about treasure capitalization. We have no reason to apologize that we are lagging behind in terms of other actors, but we have the potential to capitalize our Nigeria human resources and natural resources. So this is my feeling. We have everything, but how can we get it done? This technology, the first is technology application. Last one, I try to emphasize the tradition. We have rich tradition. Nobody deny that. But how can we combine, and how can we the transcendence our traditional culture with the modern times? Chinese now we call culture. We are confident in Chinese culture because 5,000 years history. That's this reason I think that we need this strategy to guide, direct. So this is the reason I'm very proud. This strategy is supported not only by the government, by the business people, by the think tank, especially by Professor Shirley. You can he knows more about this strategy.
I was thinking that maybe being, culturally similar countries, because I mean Nigeria too is a cultural country just like China, and then I'm looking at the benefits of this very value, to Nigeria and China as relates the relationship between these two countries. We'll get back to this when we come back from Jos. Let me get over to Professor Nora Dadut, and then explore this very area and come back to you to hear more about the outcome of the meetings you've had on the 5Gs, because I know you mentioned that last year.
Okay.
Professor Nora, can we please have an idea, or rather what your take would be, therefore, on the cultural links between these two countries as the relationships prosper? 51 years now, these two countries have been so much of been mutually beneficial to each other and one another, I must say. Give us your own take on the cultural link, and then how these two countries can harness their both cultures in trying to enhance this relationship.
Yes, first of all, China has a diversity of cultures, just as Nigeria, being the largest in population in the world, and Nigeria being the largest too in Africa. You see, they have some correlation already. And in terms of cultural values, cultural investments, I think the two countries, the two nations have a lot to share. First of all, the Chinese or China is coming out from an isolated area. That is where they belong to communism, and then they went into socialism. If I will recall, I think Korea is the only socialist country now. And then they are now bringing in modernization. And this modernization is building up into sharing and exporting their cultural values. But remember, the Chinese is very conservative when it comes to traditions, because they have a very long enduring tradition, just as Nigeria. And because the two have these elements in cultural values, they are now able to sort of collaborate and harmonize the areas where they can enjoy and reap the fruits of the culture. And when we talk of culture, we also include music, food, language, marriage, morals. And the Chinese, they have some morals that are quite interesting, just like we have in Nigeria. You know, our morals, our type of lifestyle, cultural values, we believe in them, we uphold them, and we want to maintain them. Same also with China. Now, the interesting thing is the food, because what food we bring in agriculture. And I think China has began to evolve a system where we can harmonize our agricultural inputs. For example, we tend to give what we have in terms of agricultural exposure. And I believe that the Ambassador, His Excellency, had already taken a tour to see where we can develop our agricultural parts in terms of contributing to food and, of course, the kitchen. And you know, the Chinese kitchen is well known and is well accepted in Nigeria. We should also give out our kitchen to China. And if we have 1 billion people promoting our food, our kitchen, I think it will help us to develop and also get more economic values. Again, I feel that when we come together, we should be able to harmonize and collaborate. Just like His Excellency mentioned, he said collaboration is very important in this case. So I believe we have a lot to share in our cultural and agricultural values.
Prof, I'm still staying with you. Now, if you look at the one of the components of the 5Gs that His Excellency talked about, the first one is, he says, is political consonance, which means that both countries, you know, would have to come together, and invariably it means that you support me, I support you. Now, our foreign policy recognizes the fact that we deal with the international community on a peaceful and harmonious issues. And my question is linked, you know, to our relationships with you know, some countries that may not be on the good terms with China. How might we be able to manage that first goal so as to achieve the kind of harmony, because they also come with a strategy which the Chinese ambassador would explain to us in a few moments. He calls it the Symphony, harmony and symphony. So I'm wondering how, you know, we'll be able to manage these political consonants to be able to achieve the harmony and symphony that we desire.
I think we need to appreciate, first of all, the wisdom of two countries, be able to manage and harmonize our policies. And how do we manage these policies? First, we need to engage our grassroots, what I call potentials. And when I say potentials, we have tourism. And tourism is an area where we can exploit a lot in order to bring in harmony in terms of understanding the different and the diverse, you know, qualities of our respective nations. Another thing is, I see where we can have an exchange uh, in programs. We have our students already going to study in China and do some research in China, and so should it be the same here. I know in our universities here, some departments are already promoting the language, the Chinese language, and with this, we'll be able, and also, of course, the Chinese, learning our own language. I know of a student who came to do his PhD in Hausa, in the Department of Languages and Linguistics there in the University of Jos. And from there, they should be able to project our own Hausa or Nigerian, values and cultures. And that is where we can manage the policies. You give and I take, you take and I give. Finally, I think in this case, we also have a role to play in encouraging our various sectors. It's not just agriculture or tourism or cultural. We also have this morals, discipline, and I believe that the Chinese are as hospitable as we are in Nigeria. And I also shared this with His Excellency one time. I said, like in Plateau State here, I used to call, or I do call Plateau State as the balcony of Nigeria, because you have a very pleasant weather, you have beautiful sceneries where you can take fresh air and enjoy the scenery of the state. And so it offers a lot to people who will come to invest. And that will also help in our policy, investment policy. And I believe it will work because we have talked a lot about harmonization between the two nations. And I do believe this is going to help us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Nora. Really good. Have you ever been to the Plateau? She was asking maybe. To Jos, I'm talking about Jos now, Plateau State maybe. You are in Lagos, you said, and you went, you are in Bauchi and some
And
other
he's also been
areas.
to Bauchi and Kaduna.
Start going around. Maybe you'll get to see and know more about Nigeria, and then maybe you'll appreciate that.
I really try to emphasize my feeling here. So, because COVID-19 is not allowed to travel all the states,
Right.
but now that we have a new policy, give me the opportunity to travel. I'd like to highlight, just mentioned about the harmony and the symphony. So this really, we can discuss this topic. This is my thinking. So China, we face the challenge of harmony and symphony. Nigeria also. That this is not only relating culture, also relating politics.
Yes, because I asked.
Yeah.
I asked how we're able to leverage the political consonance you talked about, which is one of your first goals, to achieve, harmony and symphony, especially where conflict of interest is concerned.
I want to highlight, if you don't mind, the first harmony, the opposite, disharmony. Symphony is the opposite, hegemony or monotony. This is my thinking in Nigeria. We need harmony. We need symphony. Symphony from party level, from the people level, from the government level. So I treat big ideas, the harmony, Chinese harmony, with 5,000 years history, the essence of a culture. One of the essence of a culture is harmony. Chinese understanding definition, harmony in coexistence. Coexistence, harmony in integration, harmony in diversity, and harmony in development. So this is about China. I think this is a universal value. Every nation cherishes harmony, even from a family level, society level. So what we have to try to do, Nigeria, China, I try to use from 4 levels. First, from the people, nature level, we advocate the people to be kind. We know we have good people, bad people, but how can we educate, encourage the people to be kind to each other? Nature, I think that how can we build a harmonious nature? This is first from the people level, nature. Second level is family and society. We try to achieve the happiness of the family, friendliness of society. The third level is about you can see the ethnic group and the culture. We try to achieve unity. Nigeria have more than 250. We have 50 ethnic groups, F-66. So how can we achieve the unity? This is the big issue. This is the big challenge. If you don't have I think no need to explain the situation here in Nigeria, but how can we seek concordance of the culture, respect, but we can get the forces from the concordance. Last one is state governance. How can we achieve peace? And also about we use the consonants. The governance should be reach the consonants. We could have disagreement, we can argue, but our goal is try to achieve development, growth, develop, and the progress.
Okay. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I know, left alone, you keep talking about this for the whole day because that's your baby. We'll take a break now. We're discussing Nigeria-China relationship and 51 years on. And when we come back, the discussion continues. Please stay with us.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. Every morning is one day closer to your ambition. So, make every morning count. Cup after cup, morning after morning. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
Trying our best to contain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover, particularly arms and ammunition, from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. if we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
Okay, welcome back to the program, and we are still focusing on Nigeria-China relations. And just before we took that break, we of course were discussing on issues bordering on the 5Gs. I think we have a video which is on the Harmony and Symphony that we will play in a moment. I just like Prof here wanted to respond to the question I put forward to Professor Dadut. Yes, please, could you? And my question is in view of China-Taiwan relationship and Nigeria-Taiwan relationship. How do we manage that in view of the political consonance, which is one of the 5 goals that he talked about?
Well, it's very simple for us to actually recognize the fact that Nigeria believes in what is known as one China policy. One China policy meaning that we do not have 2 Chinas. That is not Taiwan, but we only recognize China. And Taiwan, even at the United Nations, is not a sovereign entity. If you go to the United Nations, there is no Taiwan. Why? Because since 1970s, the leadership of China, has been recognized as led by the Communist Party of China. So therefore, the emphasis given by President Xi Jinping for peaceful reunification, that is what we expect to harmonize this particular relationship. The Xi Jinping's motive of reuniting the mainland China and the Strait of Taiwan, that is what we expect. That is what will harmonize, regional, intercontinental, and global harmonious coexistence. Why? Because China cannot actually let Taiwan go because it is part of China. Taiwan is part of China. And why is it so? It's just we in Nigeria with Biafra. We have not allowed Biafra to exist. So why should China allow Taiwan to exist? So it is part and parcel of China. Biafra is part and parcel of Nigeria. So to be cautious in making this particular relationship structuration is when we continue to uphold the principle of one China policy. Issue of culture, business, you can actually deal, even in China, Nigeria can go to Hangzhou and establish business relationship, with the province of Hangzhou, companies in Hangzhou. So if we have such relationship in Taiwan, it's not actually bad. We should recognize the fact that there is one China policy. Then secondly, on the issue of trade imbalance, in politics, in economy, we do not have the same resources. Some are richer in resources, some are actually weaker in resources. In Africa and Nigeria, we have the resources, but we do not have the industry or the machine, to process the resources. So therefore, we can give maybe China the resources for them to process it industrially, which we later buy. So what we need to do is, if we really want to bridge up the gap, is when we are able to establish these particular industries, and which is also possible. Nigerian government, for example, President Muhammad Buhari does not need to be going to international meetings that do not yield fruitful results, because here is the future, because here is the partner with which we actually collaborate for our development. The Ottoman Empire reigned for 600 years and declined. The Assyrian Empire, 300 years. The Roman Empire, 500 years, and they all declined. So the American Empire is declining.
Professor,
and here is the future. Very sorry, here is the future.
So we have to hold you. Sorry, we have to hold you and take Nadabo. We have to keep him on hold and take the video. Please go ahead.
You see, Professor Gali
Yes,
can keep talking and talking. You feel as if he's in
he's
the
a-
classroom.
he's a-
After all, he has not been in the classroom for quite a while now. But all the same, before you take that issue, let's now take that clip from on China's Symphony and China-Nigeria relations. It's about all we're talking about here.
Since ancient times, the Chinese have advocated a culture of harmony. The evolution of the character He has been a long process. In the oracle bone script, the strokes on the upper left side of the character He depict mouths, while the strokes below depict musical instruments such as the reed pipe and vertical bamboo flute. The right side directs the pronunciation of He. This character and He were often used interchangeably, owing to their shared meaning. The original meaning of the character is harmony. Harmony is the core of Chinese culture. For the Chinese people, living in peace and harmony is part of their cultural identity. Guided by this core value, Chinese harmony culture is described at 4 different levels. Lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets. Humans and nature need harmony in coexistence, which is the inherent requirement of sustainable development. We need to realize the importance of green development and that the ecological environment is irreplaceable. A family is the basic cell of a country, and a country is consisted of thousands of families. The harmony and integration of thousands of families is the cornerstone for national development and for people to set sail for their dreams. The Chinese nation has always attached great importance to family. The foundation of social harmony lies in harmony in diversity, seeking common ground while recognizing differences. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1971, China-Nigeria relations have enjoyed smooth development, which relies on seeking common ground and helping each other. Nigeria is China's largest cooperation partner in Africa. The Chinese nation is a peace-loving nation. We adhere to the path of harmony in development, carrying forward the traditional peace-loving culture that extends back thousands of years. Peace and development are the common values upheld and the common cause pursued by all people in the world. Sharing the Chinese culture of harmony and sharing the 4 harmonies, namely harmony in coexistence, harmony in integration, harmony in diversity, and harmony in development, and performing the Nigeria-China Symphony in the spirit of kindness and harmony, happiness and friendliness, unity and concordance, and peace and constancy. So as to facilitate the 5GIST Nigeria-China GDP strategy, and hope to achieve the goal of harmony in coexistence. Both Nigeria and China have abundant human resources and vast natural resources. Guiding, encouraging, and supporting everyone to be kind and protecting nature are the prerequisites for performing the Nigeria-China Symphony. As for family and society, we advocate happiness and friendliness and hope to achieve the goal of harmony in integration. Happiness and friendliness is the foundation of social stability. Building a stable and harmonious society is the basic guarantee for performing the Nigeria-China Symphony. As for nation and culture, we advocate unity and concordance and hope to achieve the goal of harmony in diversity. There are 56 ethnic groups in China and 250 in Nigeria. These ethnic groups yearn for harmony and cultural integration. Promoting unity and concordance between nations and cultures reflects the real value of performing the Nigeria-China Symphony. As for country and governance, we advocate peace and consonance and hope to achieve the goal of harmony in development. Both the Chinese dream and the Nigerian dream are dreams of peace, development, and win-win cooperation. While performing the Nigeria-China Symphony, we can truly enjoy the melody of the times through promoting world peace and improving our national governance. The Analects of Confucius states, "In practicing the rules of propriety, it is harmony that is prized." The thought of harmonious unity is the most vibrant core of Chinese traditional culture. Upholding the idea of harmony, let us work together to play the China-Nigeria Symphony and deliver a brighter future.
Nigeria's, relationship, harmony and symphony. Professor Gali, what have you made out of this?
The issue is that it's all about mutual learning process, sharing and learning, because it is what the Chinese people did in order to harmonize their own society. So for us to achieve development, there has to be a kind of interlocking relationship between consonance and harmony. Why is it so? There is the need for national identity, part of the identified goal of the GDP strategy identified by His Excellency. There is this consonance which deals with national identity. The nationals, we should identify with the nation, the state of the nation. Not whenever Nigeria is actually called, then we pass that particular sense of resentment. No, how do we do that? When you take, for example, harmony in coexistence, an Igbo man, Yoruba man, Hausa man, we should actually appreciate the fact that we belong to one entity. We coexist harmoniously. That we also get into integration, national integration. North, southwest, southeast, northwest, we get well integrated. Not we, as a result of that particular sense of resentment, leaving the country or even orchestrating evil against the entity Nigeria. No, let us get integrated. The Chinese are happy when you mention their leaders, when you mention their achievement. So why don't we be happy about our own national development? We integrate. We agree that we live together as one people. Then that lead toward harmony in diversity. We recognize the fact that we are Nigerians, but diverse people. Then if we put this all together, that brings about development. So the harmony and the political consonance. These are the relationship.
Excellency.
Okay. Yes.
It's now 1 year through GIST, I must say, because here last year we talked about this. And that's your baby, that's your product. And of course, last year you talked about 15th October, you meeting with Nigerian officials on this very project of yours. Briefly, maybe maybe 60 seconds or so. Tell us the outcome of it and then 12 months on.
Okay. Really, last year we are talking about strategy is worse, but what we have done achieved result. The first result from party level, I organized a very good seminar between 18 registered party in Nigeria with CPC. Very successful, because without party consonance, we can see lead the nation to develop. The second, I think, want to let you know, the 9 program, this initiated by Chinese president. In this strategy, we have chosen out from for example, we just listed the name of the first for the public health, where working on the vaccine production line, and also working for the traditional herb medicines. We are discussing, we are formulating a company here. We have got land and also for the farmers, reduce at you just mentioned about Junzao technology. We will build, we have find 20 hectares as financed by Chinese government. We will build a demonstration center in Abuja that let farmers to go there to get trained, and then they can grow this kind of grass, this Junzao. And also we are not thinking that we are implementing how can we build a, like China, village. In terms of trade and investment facilitation, I want to share with you now, we are organizing the business people in Nigeria, how can make a group go to China to say how can they export Nigerian commodity to China. In terms of investment, I'm working hard to try to get investment from China, including just mentioned the bank. And we think that the Bank of China will operate in Nigeria. And also I have talked to the governor of central bank, and also we will have more appointment to have this detailed discussion about a currency swap. This now we need more amount of Naira and Chinese currency, RMB. So this is about banking sectors, insurance sectors, and also infrastructure. I think easy to say. I work hard to accomplish Lekki deep sea port. I was there. Also Dangote refineries, and also the airport, the 4 airport terminals in Abuja, Kano, Hakot, and also Lagos. This is my job, not my achievement, but I monitor and try to solve the problems within. And also we have achieved a lot about the talent just mentioned. So maybe time's the limit. I cannot leave.
I like for you to, because the video we watched, the Symphony and Harmony, would appear to the ordinary Nigerian watching, it's mere theory, you know. For instance, how do we mainstream this in a situation where, for instance, we're having to deal with farmer headers issues in some parts of the country? How can we achieve harmony between those?
I got your point. Really, this is my thinking. So we are doing mostly political sector, economic sectors, but we have to think about how can we do the general public. So we need harmony. We need a symphony. The opposite disharmony, the opposite hegemony or monotony, there is special meaning for China and Nigeria. We have a problem, issues, challenge of Chinese reunification. We have disharmony with Taiwan, the mainland and Taiwan. I want to take the opportunity to share the basic facts about Taiwan. Taiwan, people always characterize, define, or describe a nation, use the geographical area, ethnic group, and the political organization. So we call a country, nation, and state. So we use the 3 words, country, nation, state. I want to share the basic facts. The country, geographical area, Taiwan mainland, we can trace back at least AD 230. That means not divided. The second, in terms of ethnic group, China, we have 56 ethnic group. The Han nationality in the mainland account for 91%. That means we have nearly 9% we call minority or small ethnic group. In Taiwan, we have 23 million people. 96 of nationality is Chinese, is Han nationality. So they have 4% of small ethnic groups. That means being a nation, we have the ethnic group the same. Language, custom, tradition, culture. In terms of state political, so China, we have more than 20 dynasties. Okay, I quickly covered it. 20 dynasties, 400 emperors. So each dynasty died, the new dynasty comes. So Republic of China from 1911 to 1949, New China from 1949 now. So that means the former government died, the new government formed. So this is the basic facts. I think that Nigeria people should know the basic facts.
Yes, because I'm sorry. I'm just concerned about the fact that if you have issues with Taiwan and you have this strategy which you're promoting and you hold very strongly. Why isn't it working with Taiwan?
Okay, I want to. You didn't mention the Nancy Pelosi to visit Taiwan. I think this is not this is really a hot topic. I want to express my 3 points very quickly. First, Nancy Pelosi visit is not invited by Chinese people, Chinese government. I mean the central government, people from mainland, also including people living in Taiwan. The second, Nancy Pelosi visit is not with good intention, is with malice. I think it's about politics. The third, I think that is very important. Her visit is supporting the separatists. We cannot allow that. This is the reason why this is really the public topic. I think that we have no time to discuss in detail.
No time, really.
But I want to let you know that we need harmony. We need the symphony. The Chinese reunification, peaceful reunification, is the solution of the mainland and Taiwan. We oppose the external, not only sovereignty, territory, not only the policies, international norm, not only the non-interference. So we think that today's topic is not about Taiwan, it's about Nigeria, China. So you just mentioned that we need harmony, not only the domestically, we need harmony internationally.
Okay, many thanks.
And also,
we thank you so much for your contribution this morning. It's your day anyway. We must acknowledge that and accept it. Thank you so much. That was Ambassador, Chu Jie-chung, the ambassador to Nigeria from China. It's our pleasure. Professor Gali, it's been a pleasure. We thank you so much for being part of the discussion this morning.
Thank you.
And same goes to Professor Nora Dadut, Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you for your contributions this morning. And of course, a very big thank you too for you out there. It's our pleasure. That's Good Morning Nigeria. Today we discuss Nigeria-China relations. We'll be back tomorrow with another topic. Be with us.
And I'm Claire Dilabo Abdul Razak. Don't forget to always take action, fight against rape and rapists. From the crew, have a good day.